Hello, thank you so much for joining me for Give Him 15. The title of today's post is Heaven Approved the Solemn Appeal. As an encouragement, my friend and leader of the Texas Apostolic Prayer Network, known as TXAPN, Tom Schlueter, sent me a blog he wrote back in 2015. Tom knows I love history, and he's very aware of my passion regarding the Appeal to Heaven flag. Last week, he says, as we were finishing up our vacation in New England, Kay and I journeyed to the site of the first shots fired in the American Revolution. They occurred at the towns of Lexington and Concord, Massachusetts. One of the places I desired to visit was the Hancock Clark home in Lexington. Most people bypass this significant location. Jonas Clark was an American clergyman who had a significant and passionate role in the American Revolution, as well as in shaping the Massachusetts and U.S. constitutions. His pulpit, like many others, was the site of rallying calls to freedom, and he became the predominant voice of liberty in Lexington. Clark graduated from Harvard College in 1752 and became the third pastor of the Church of Christ in Lexington, Massachusetts on May 19th, 1755. He married Lucy Bowes. His wife's cousin was the famous John Hancock. This Hancock Clark home was first owned by Hancock's grandfather, the Reverend John Hancock Sr. The home was the destination of Paul Revere's famous ride on April 18th, 1775, since Samuel Adams and John Hancock, sought after by the British, were staying with Reverend Clark. A lot of history here, a lot of names you've heard before. Very significant place, very significant time. Tom says, as my wife Kay and I walked through the home, there was a strong sense of God's presence. At its beginning, the home had been filled with the Lord and a family of 12 children. His holy presence still lingered in the rooms. The flagpole in its flag out front reveals what is called the Massachusetts tree flag. It was designed after the Appeal to Heaven flag, with an evergreen tree in the top left field of white. We then journeyed a few blocks, Tom continues, we then journeyed a few blocks from the home to Lexington Green, where the first shots of the Revolution were fired. While there, we read the monument's inscription, which is dedicated to those who fell that day. After further research, I discovered that the inscription was written by none other than Reverend Jonas Clark. He wrote it 24 years after the battle in Lexington and 16 years after the end of the war. This is the entire inscription on the monument at Lexington Green. Please note, and I will point it out to you as I read it, the highlighted phrase. He highlights it in his blog he released. It says, "Sacred to liberty and the rights of mankind, the freedom and independence of America, sealed and defended with the blood of her sons. This monument is erected by the inhabitants of Lexington under the patronage and at the expense of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to the memory of their fellow citizens, Robert Monroe, Jonas Parker, Samuel Hadley, Jonathan Harrington Jr., Isaac Muzzy, Caleb Harrington, and John Brown of Lexington, and Asahel Porter of Woburn, who fell on this field, the first victims to the sword of British tyranny and oppression, on the morning of the ever-memorable 19th of April, 1775. The plaque continues, the die was cast. The blood of these martyrs in the cause of their God and their country. These founders, these are my words, these founders and revolutionary warriors for our independence considered it not just their cause, but God's cause. In the cause of their God and their country was the cement of the union of these states, then colonies, and gave the spring to the spirit, firmness, and resolution of their fellow citizens. They rose as one man to revenge their brethren's blood, and at the point of the sword to assert and defend their native rights. They nobly dared to be free. What a great phrase, isn't it? They nobly dared to be free! Exclamation point, exclamation point. The contest was long, bloody, and effective. And here's the phrase Tom had highlighted, which is why he wrote the blog. Righteous heaven approved the solemn appeal. What a great phrase. Righteous heaven approved the solemn appeal. Victory crowned their arms, and the peace, liberty, and independence of the United States of America was their glorious reward. Built in the year 1799. Tom concludes by saying that the Spirit of the Lord moved over me as I read the inscription again. Righteous heaven approved the solemn appeal. I called my wife Kay over to the monument to read it. As she did, she declared to me, "Do you see what's next to it?" Standing next to the memorial was a huge evergreen tree. Let us boldly make our appeal to heaven in this hour, he says. God will faithfully approve of our appeal as we bow before him and trust in him alone for our victory. Amen. I certainly agree with what Tom says. God is hearing our appeal. He is the one who brought this flag out of hiding a few short years ago. The appeal to heaven flag and prayer movement was God's idea in 1775, just as it is now. I have said dozens, if not hundreds of times, the same thing that birthed America, appealing to heaven, will rebirth America. Holy Spirit would never have brought this flag back into a place of significance in America had he not intended to honor the appeals. It still works. I was leading a prayer tour a few years ago, asking the Lord to reconnect America to her covenant roots. As he so often does on journeys such as this, Holy Spirit was faithful to give us numerous supernatural confirmations that we were indeed in his will and that our prayers were effective. In York, Pennsylvania, we visited a small museum which housed the Continental Congress for a few months during the Revolutionary War. In essence, it was our U.S. Capitol for a few months. When we arrived on a Saturday, the building was closed. We ran around back, stood in a circle, and began praying. However, two of our more adventurous members wandered over and tried to open the back door. it was unlocked. So they sauntered in, thinking, there must be someone here. Perhaps they'll let us look around. Instead, an alarm was triggered. It wasn't loud. We didn't even hear it outside. They left the building quickly. Minutes later, the manager, pulled up. The alarm was connected to his home. He walked through the building, opened the back door, and sternly said to us, "Who are you? What are you doing? And why is this alarm going off?" Our prayers shifted from America to ourselves, asking for favor and mercy. We told him what had happened, who we were, and that we were praying for America. He seemed appreciative that we were praying and was also extremely glad we had inadvertently helped him discover the unlocked door. "Would you like to look around and pray inside?" he asked. Sure," we almost shouted. While inside, he began sharing with us the history of the building, pointing out pieces of furniture and where the members of Congress had sat. He then pointed to 7 or 8 flags adorning the walls. They all had a special meaning to the colonists, he said, though I'm not sure what some of them mean. For example, that white one there with the evergreen tree and the words "Appeal to Heaven." I'm not sure what it was all about. We told him, and then we did it. We prayed. Let's do it now. Father, as we heard in yesterday's post, you're about to follow through on promises you've made to intercessors here in America. You're also about to follow through on a promise you made to your Son. In Psalm 2, you promised him the nations as his inheritance, the ends of the earth as his possession. You also said his bride would consist of people from every tribe and tongue. We join with him now in holy expectation as he enacts his greatest kingdom campaign ever. Let it begin. Bring it. We partner now with our great Paraclete, Holy Spirit, one called alongside to help us. He is now also in us. We are filled with his power and life. We operate in his gifts, receive his revelation, and walk in his wisdom. We emit his light, speak his truth, and move in his timing. We promote peace, but are ready for war. Flip the switch, Holy Spirit. Revive again. Pour yourself out. Rain your life-giving water. We continue the great tradition in our nation of appealing to you for your help, Yahweh. We have joined our hearts together as an appealing company of intercessors. We agree, all across this land and in other nations of the earth, send the fire. And our decree. We decree that we win on appeal. Thank you for joining me today. I'll see you tomorrow. Keep it up.